Good morning, everyone. It is the 11th, and I haven't made a video, I guess, since the 1st or 2nd. Been busy. I apologize there, but it's a mega video, so I got a number of different topics today. I want to dedicate this video to Mr. Fink, and he'll know who he is, because I'm sure he is going to bother to stroll over to my channel to troll. Let's talk about the first thing, skepticism versus shilling. I'm what one would call a real skeptic. That is, I reevaluate my positions based on the knowledge I have, but I'm open to new things, and then I look at them and I evaluate them. A potential student sent me a channel on here, Daniel Nunez. I admit I'm skeptical. I don't believe in over-unity perpetual motion machines. However, I am willing to watch all the different videos, at least enough of them, to see what he's doing, what he thinks he's doing. Is it real or is it fake? All right, that's what a skeptic can do. Now, I came from a Big Bang, Darwinian, atheist, materialist background. I started there, and my assumption was that I did not know everything, but that I could tell the difference between real and fake. Now, the fact that I end up on a different spectrum completely is due to the fact that I've experienced things, and I've seen things, and I've done different things, right? I didn't grow up in a household, like a real hippie household or something, where I just was exposed to saging all the time. That's not what happened. What happened was I went looking and asking questions. When you are a scientist, it doesn't matter whether it's the Western science, or some kind of soft science like archaeology, or one of the supreme sacred or secret sciences, you have to ask questions. You can't really prove anything. It only takes one thing to disprove something, but you have to be willing to say, well, did I disprove it or did I disprove a portion of it? And if you don't understand about the matrices and about context, right, the parentheses that make the matrices true, I'd be glad to explain that to you in detail if you ask the question below, Mr. Fink. The difference between a skeptic and a shill is being paid to basically keep everyone in the dark about knowledge rather than in the light. Now, they have a very useful function in terms of appealing to their audience and selling certain ideas, and debunking bad science, which there is plenty. Pretty much any time papers are written and no one picks them up, most of those papers are poorly written. Most of the science is poor in the first place, and if it's anything about dark matter, it's not going to be very good at all, because it's based on an assumption of correctness which has no provability or disprovability, which is very, very bad science. So a shill gets paid to keep things in the status quo. They don't really add anything to humanity. A true skeptic will help to bring things into a new evolution of understanding an idea. That's the difference, Mr. Fink. And I hope that you figure that out. And if you don't, good luck to you, okay? Now, on to, let's jump into a real soft, quote, science, or a pseudoscience, if you will, metaphysics. Let's talk about feng shui and Bazi really briefly. Feng shui, real feng shui is not interior decoration. It is not fortune telling. It is not the things that they are telling you. Real feng shui is merely the arrangement of objects so that there is an energy flow in either a room or an environment. Feng means wind, shui means water. Bazi is not the same at all. It is a type of astrology that is based on the changes on time, rather than on, say, like the planets. Well, if the planets have changed, then that would explain why Western astrology is somewhat hit and miss. Bazi is very accurate for being what it is, because it's the only science that we currently have that uses the changes to calculate when things are likely to be happening to you and why. And each person gets treated differently. Just because they're both born the year of the snake, for example, they will actually have completely different decade pillars. And that science is partially cultural, right? It's based on the characters, but it is actually something that's very interesting and very measurable. And I hope in due time to actually provide some case studies on that. But I want to emphasize that it's based on the changes. It's based on the rotational nature of everything that's happening around us and how there's a repeated flipping from order to chaos, over and over, expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. Now, numerology is instead, I wouldn't call it a science, I would call it an entire world. Numerology it really covers anything from math magicians to mystical thoughts on, say, fractal universes, to outright, there are this many angels and there are this many triangles, and, very rote numerology. Numerology is a dangerous world to get into, and I'm not saying it's because it's evil. I'm just saying that it has a tendency to delude the person into thinking that they are describing reality. And although they are describing, and this is like a description, right? Just like an equation in physics, it's a description of what happens. Like kinetic energy is 1/2 mv squared. That's a description. That's not actually what kinetic energy is. But you see, if the universe was really numbers, everything we would look around, we would see the numbers. They would be there. Instead, those numbers are contained, again, in the hidden dimensions. And the hidden dimensions are really important. It's one of the hallmark things about the secret and the supreme sciences is that we emphasize the forces that aren't studied, emphasize the things that we don't know, and that we are trying to know, or we're trying to at least get a description of, because it will give us leverage into future activities of science, future technologies, future medicine. Numerology, therefore, does have huge benefits. I once saw a mathematical equation displayed at TED for hormones, for male and female hormones. This is very fascinating kind of numerology. It's very fascinating kind of math magics. Obviously, it's not the reality of hormones, but it's very useful. And I think that we should have it, but we shouldn't mistake that for actual science, because actual science is repeatably testable. You're controlling the variables, and it is laboratory. It's observations based on nature that you can make in a laboratory or actually out in nature. Okay, now moving on completely to a different topic here, because I got to get through these. Let's talk about sure, or the position or leverage or momentum. Remember that sure is again one of these secret science terms that has so many meanings that it's very difficult to translate. In the Giles translation in The Art of War, it's something like strategic configuration of power. It's not always about power, but what I want to say about sure is that measuring the sure before you get into a debate, make a campaign for something, want to change something, want to change someone, is absolutely vital. If you don't understand your position, you don't understand their position, you don't understand where they're going with their position, and then you start to move your position, you will fail both objectively and subjectively. And when you fail subjectively, it's going to irritate you, it's going to stir you up inside. So it's very important that you discern the sure. If you're having trouble to understanding how to visualize sure, I definitely recommend playing more chess, because if you play more chess, you will start to come to understand how things push against each other. Also, the sports like football, basketball, soccer. Soccer is really important in sure. In fact, sometimes when they get to a certain place, they'll kick the ball all the way back to the other half of the field, which you can't do in basketball, and it'll go all the way back to try and come back forward again to reset the sure. And so it's so important that the Pentagon had a paper drawn up about it. So I definitely recommend, and if you need a book to read, look at The Propensity of Things by Francois Julien for a deeper, artistic, very, very, very right-brain discussion of sure. So speaking of sure, when I wake up in the morning, I immediately try to evaluate my sure for the day. And like today, I woke up and I had cold air trapped in the lungs. I must have snorted in, probably because I was up till a little after midnight. And so how did I deal with this? I want to give you a new technique. I call this the steam pot technique. It's not going to actually be a steam pot. What it's actually just doing, you're laying on your side, either your right or your left. Your right is technically more preferable, covering the head with the blankets, and you're recirculating the air, which I know, that's carbon dioxide, sometimes unpleasant. If it's pleasant, then you need it. If it's unpleasant, then it's not the right technique. And it's mostly for when the lung is dry and brittle due to cold air. There may be actually a hole in the energy body because of the coldness. So the positive energy actually recedes away, leaving not only the whole of the positive energy, but the actual cold lodged in, making phlegm, could give you bronchitis or even pneumonia. It's very dangerous, so it's a good technique to master. The breathing technique sounds like this. In which the top of the head becomes the pot lid, and you are increasing the pressure in the cavity, in the chest cavity. When you're done, if there's cold, when you wake up, you should need to pee a little bit urgently. I don't think I'm going to be able to get into this discussion today about reviving the past and narrow strictures and keyholes, or maybe I'll have to just make a separate video. I'm sorry there. I do want to end this video talking about that there's probably going to be some reduction of my activities, maybe production of these videos. I don't know. I'm still trying to receive, being that we are fleshy creatures of relative dispositions. I'm going to be changing the name of the law of relativity, and the Bhagavad Dharma, I think. I'm going to be changing it to the law of variance. But it's based on some paradigm shifting things I was watching on Distinti's channel last night. But essentially, I know that there are too many things on my circuit right now. And it's not that people are a drain, I mean, they are a load, but it's that right now, the amount of energy, it could be just winter, it could just be me, is a little lower. And my children, as they grow, they're like fruit on the vine. They need more of the current coming from me. And so I'm feeling certain that the golden flower is going to require that I drop the amount of electrical output that I am putting towards different activities. I'm evaluating which ones. I'm going to have to do my. I have an activities intake, by the way, that actually has. You can compare statistics. You can compare how many you're doing, either daily or weekly, to the age groups, and you can see if you're above average. I'm sure right now I've creeped back up above average, so I got to redo that intake and see how I'm doing. I'm sure that I'm over the limit by a bit. I could be double. At one time I was double in my weekly as compared to my peer group in terms of activity. So I'm going to have to do that. I think it's really important that you feng shui not just the environment around you, but that you feng shui your life, that you feng shui your activities. And sometimes you have to make hard cuts. And for me, it will probably be deleting a couple of apps, reducing social media time, maybe even getting off of Facebook for a few months. I have a lot of things. We're going to be moving the clinic. We're going to be moving, who knows, maybe the house will have to move too. I've got trips. I need to go and visit some family. And so there's a lot of things going on. I just want you to understand that. I'm coaching my son's basketball team, which we're doing really well so far. And I just have to look at everything. We'll see if I continue making as many videos. It probably won't be the same output that I was doing last quarter is where I'm getting to, because I have to rotate around. I have to update different web pages over time, and although I have an assistant, her job is already full of a lot of harebrained things. So shrinking the tree or pruning the tree, however you want to look at it, is sometimes absolutely vital to maintaining one's energy. And this coming spring, I have some personal outdoorsy goals. And since I'm not done with the Hidden Destinations project for this whole year, I have still 250 locations to get to. If I want to enjoy those things that I want to do and do the project, I probably have to make room. So I hope you understand. Anyways, it's been a good video, and I will come back at some point and talk about the alchemy of reviving the past. You have a great day. I'll see you on the next video. Like, share, subscribe, please.